Welcome to our deep dive today.
Yeah.
We're going to a place you might not have heard of before, Arugam Bay in Sri Lanka. We've got some excerpts from the Wikipedia article on Arugam Bay, and it looks like an amazing blend of natural beauty and some interesting cultural stuff going on. Plus, it's been in the news lately.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Arugam Bay kind of shows you the whole picture of Sri Lanka, like all the beauty, the different groups of people, a history of both peace and conflict, and now this place dealing with being more and more popular.
So first things first, where even is Arugam Bay?
Okay, so picture this: Sri Lanka's southeast coast, right there on the Indian Ocean. Arugam Bay, it's about 117 kilometers south of Batticaloa and 320 kilometers east of Colombo. But it's not just a town on the coast, it's like the gateway to Yala East National Park.
So are we talking beaches A&D, like a wildlife safari kind of thing?
You got it. You can see elephants moving between Lahugula and Kumana National Parks. Arugam Bay is like your starting point to a whole different world.
Okay, I'm already sold on the elephant thing, but the Wikipedia article said there's more to Arugam Bay than just pretty beaches. Oh yeah, definitely. This is where things get really interesting. See, Arugam Bay, it's a mix of different communities. It's mainly Muslim, but there are also a lot of Sri Lankan Tamil and Sinhala people living there. And it's not like some new tourist spot either. It's been around for a long time. It's part of the ancient Batticaloa territory called Madakalapu Disam. Even the name Arugam Kuta has a story behind it. It means Bay of Sinadong Dakbalan, which is actually a type of grass. So picture this bay with these grassy shores.
Wow. So you've got a bay with grass, all these different cultures, a history that goes back centuries, and now it's becoming this popular tourist destination. That's quite the mix.
That's exactly what makes Arugam Bay's story so interesting, how it's dealing with all this change. The economy has gone from mainly fishing to tourism, especially surf tourism. The area's got some awesome surf breaks that attract people from everywhere.
Okay, I'm not a surfer myself, but you're making me want to check it out. So is it only for surfers, or is there other stuff to do too?
Oh no, definitely not just for surfers. Think beaches, lagoons, historic temples, and of course that national park we talked about. Arugam Bay's got something for everyone. But this change hasn't been easy.
Right. The Wikipedia article mentioned the 2004 tsunami. I bet that was just devastating for Arugam Bay.
It was a major turning point for Arugam Bay and for Patuval, which is a nearby town. Both places were hit really hard. It showed how vulnerable the area is to natural disasters, but it also showed the strength of the people. The rebuilding was massive, and tourism played a big part in that.
It makes you think about how tourism and the traditional way of life, like fishing, how they work together, or maybe don't. Were there problems?
There were definitely some tensions. During the conflict with the Tamil separatists, tourism was pretty low-key. Hotels would usually buy fish from the local fishermen. But then peace came back and tourism just boomed. A lot of the fishermen who'd left during the conflict, they came back, and that led to some clashes. Hotel owners started complaining about the smell of fish, drying fishing huts blocking the view.
So peace brought its own set of problems. That's kind of unexpected. What happened next?
Well, things got even more complicated. After the tsunami, fishermen were stopped from going back to their usual fishing spots. The reason they gave was safety, but people were saying that pressure from hotel owners played a part too. It raises some tough questions about who really has the power after a disaster like that.
It's crazy how a natural disaster can completely change who's got the power. And with tourism becoming even more important to the local economy, there's been this surge of visitors from Israel lately. The Wikipedia article mentioned that.
Yeah, Arugam Bay has become really popular with Israeli tourists, and a lot of businesses there cater to them. You'll even see signs in Hebrew. It's led to some interesting things happening, like those heightened security measures back in October 2024.
Hold on, heightened security. What was going on?
Yeah, it seems like there was maybe a threat against Israeli tourists, and there were some people on social media saying to boycott Israeli businesses.
Wow. So what did they actually DO for security?
It was a pretty big deal. They sent in troops, increased patrols, and even Israel's National Security Council told Israelis in Arugam Bay to get out and avoid big groups. The U.S. Embassy even issued a travel warning for Americans, too.
That's intense. What was causing all this tension?
It's a complex situation. Some reports said there was anger within the Muslim community about Israel's conflicts with Hamas and Hezbollah. Plus, there were those accusations about some Israeli businesses not operating legally, which didn't help.
It really shows how what's happening around the world can affect even a small place like this. And it's interesting that this potential threat and all the security stuff happened just before the main surfing season in Arugam Bay, which usually starts in November.
Right, that's a good point. And it shows just how tricky things are for Arugam Bay.
Yeah.
You've got this rise in Israeli tourism and all the tension that comes with it on top of the existing struggle between the traditional fishing industry and the growing tourism industry.
Yeah, it's a lot for one little bay to handle. But let's switch gears for a minute. The Wikipedia article talked about Arugam Bay being a surfer's paradise. They even ranked it as one of the top 10 surf destinations in the world. What makes the waves there so special?
Arugam Bay's got these awesome breaks, like one called Ofek's Main Point. They create perfect conditions for surfing. People come from all over to surf there. And it's not just casual surfing either.
Yeah.
Arugam Bay is the only place in Sri Lanka that hosts international surf competitions. They even had the Sri Lanka Pro there back in 2019.
So you've got this mix of laid-back beach vibes and serious surfing all in one place.
Exactly. And speaking of bringing people together, the article mentioned a really cool group called the Arugam Bay Girls Surf Club. Have you heard of them?
I have. They sound awesome. They're the first all-female surf club in Sri Lanka, right?
Yep. Started in 2018, they're breaking down barriers and riding those waves. It's so inspiring to see these women challenging norms and encouraging others to go after their passions.
For sure. Do you know how many members they have?
As of October 2024, they had 13 members. And here's the cool part. A lot of them are certified instructors, thanks in part to support from the Australian government.
So they're not just surfing for themselves, they're teaching others and building a whole community. That's really amazing.
It is. And it speaks to the bigger picture of Arugam Bay. You've got this small coastal community dealing with economic changes, cultural tensions, and the aftermath of natural disasters. But you also see incredible strength, the rise of female empowerment through surfing, and this unique mix of local life and global influences.
It's like Arugam Bay is a little version of the whole world. It shows both the beauty and the challenges.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. And it leads us right into our final thoughts for our listener. So we've talked a lot about Arugam Bay today.
It's been through a lot, like natural disasters, changes in tourism conflict, and then bouncing back. It's a story that's still happening. And that's where you come in, listener.
Exactly. What's really cool is that Arugam Bay's future is still being written. It's being shaped right now by the people who live there, the communities, and all these global things happening around them. It makes you wonder, what will they create? Will they find that balance between keeping their cultural traditions alive and becoming this big tourist spot? Can it be a place where tourism actually helps everyone, both the visitors and the locals?
Those are great questions for our listeners to think about. As we wrap up, think about Arugam Bay. Imagine you're there, hearing the waves, feeling the sun, smelling the spices in the air. But also think about all those other things. The money problems, the cultural differences, the environment. What's our role in all this as citizens of the world? How do we affect places like Arugam Bay?
Yeah, there's no easy answer, but it's a question we all need to be asking. You know, when we understand how connected we all are, that's the first step to making sure places like Arugam Bay can actually thrive, not just survive.
That's a great thought to leave everyone with. So to our listener, keep exploring, stay curious, and let Arugam Bay's story inspire you to think about the places you visit and how you impact the world.
And if this deep dive got you thinking or you have questions, share them. Tell the world. Because every voice, every perspective helps us understand more.
That's all for today, folks. Until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions.
And may your own adventures be full of amazing things and new discoveries.